YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Welcome to my review for BoonBoomger Episode 30. Man, can you believe we're at Episode 30 already? I know we've already debuted the Six Ranger and done the power-up and stuff, but somehow it also feels like just yesterday we were watching the premiere, and we're already on the lookout for the next Sentai trademark. Time flies fast. And also, where did this heat come from? BoonBoomger's always been enjoyable for me. You know, I think Lap 2 is definitely a lower point in terms of my interest, but it's never been awful. But these last few episodes have really had a good momentum and balance, and I wish the show had been like this longer. Most Sentai aren't serialized and consistent all the way through, but it would have been nice to have episodes like these seeded through Lap 2, as it felt like a lot of the, even debuts in that set, felt like debuts happening during filler, if that makes any sense. So, this episode was more so centered on Team Rocket, actually, as they're trying to get Mad Rex's groove back, because as you know, his memory and sort of agency is wiped by disgrace, and he kind of snapped out of it a little last week, but then he's put back under the spell, and they kind of dive back into that backstory of him helping Team Rocket back in the day pick themselves up, and that's why they want to help him. And I thought that was a nice touch, and this is probably the most I've liked quote-unquote Team Rocket in a while. Not that I've disliked them, but in a way they very much remind me of how I felt about actual Team Rocket over the course of the show. I liked them when they first showed up, but then by the time they kind of overstayed their welcome, it was kind of a mix of you kind of like them at this point in the series, and then later in the series you're like, why did they have to be here doing this stuff? And that's kind of the way I felt about them. And this episode I think was a stronger and kind of more endearing character one for them. I do kind of wish they had delved more into this when Mad Rex was around. In fact, that's one of my only negatives is, not that it's a huge negative, but I was thinking about Mad Rex's relationship with these characters and also his rivalry with Red, because I think that they do a good job of making this feel like a classic Red Ranger and villain rivalry, but it felt like Mad Rex was around for a blip. I wish he had been around longer before, and I feel like this arc would hit even harder in terms of his relationship with the villains and his rivalry with Red. But overall, though, I really enjoyed this. There was a bit of fun of them trying to jog his memories by pretending to be the BoonBoomgers, which leads them to want to trap him with Red so they can fight to jog his memory. And then that kind of leads to the climax of the episode, which is one of the best parts, where we had this really cool thing where we had a ground and mecha fight happening at the same time. Kind of reminded me of, I like that in Go Busters, because for the most part, 95% of Sentai, especially up to that point, had followed the strict formula of, you fight on the ground and then you grow big. And it was cool to see that where you would have a ground and mecha battle happening at the same time. So that was really fun. And they used the Boom Killer Robo to distract, and they wind up stealing the police form, and that was really cool. That goes really well together. I liked that a lot. And as a result, in the battle, they get to use multiple auxiliary formations, which was nice. It's kind of like the ability rider forms, where those early forms usually fall by the wayside once you start getting into the super duper forms. So it was nice to see that. And it was also nicely segued into them using Night last, which was one of the final things that jogged Mad Rex's memory. Also, I'm just thinking about now, this is not related to BoonBoomger, but they almost never used Snail and the roly-poly thing in King Oger outside of the formations later. They debuted as individual weapons, but then after that, they never showed up that I remember, outside of when they were added on. They were completely pointless. Anyway, so I really like that. I like getting to see some of the older forms. I like the two different fights. As always, the fights are pretty entertaining. I liked the endearing stuff with them trying to bring back Mad Rex's memory. Also, Disgrace is calling somebody about the pictures he took of the police form last week. I still don't know whether it specifically has to do with the police form, or if it's just about him recognizing Boondario or something like that. It just he happened to see it when he saw the police form. I'm not sure, but that also kind of tied in a way, since they were using the evil version. Not an evil version of police form, just another one like this. The only other negative I have, which again isn't a huge negative, is I felt that the fight between Gemba and Sakito felt unnecessary. It almost felt like they were oh crap, we have to include these two. What should we do? And then they just kind of shoehorned him in. I also forgot for a second how he looked, and it reminded me of a comment from the review for when his form debuted about how they were hoping that this would be a cooler, different alien form for him, and he just looks like an Inuyasha cat character. And I can't disagree. It doesn't upset me, but it would have been cool to have a more, cool-looking form, in my opinion, or maybe a full-on monster-looking form. That could have been kind of neat. Regardless, though, it just felt a little bit unneeded. I think it's probably because they have to include all the cast or something, but I don't know. It just kind of broke the flow up of the episode. It was just kind of showing, hey, Gemba wants to get in on this for his reasons, and Sakito's stop, my friend. He didn't do it like that. It just didn't need to be there. It kind of broke the flow. But otherwise, I really enjoyed this episode. It was almost felt like, not a side story, but it felt like we took a break from some of the more main stuff we're dealing with the conspiracies in Genba, and we're focusing more on Mad Rex and the villains, but it still felt like something of value was happening in the bigger picture, and I really enjoyed it. And I liked the little bit of change of format too, where, again, it was primarily focused on the villains, and I think Taya got the most screen time. The rest of the cast was in there, but they were in there very briefly. But yeah, still really enjoying it. So glad BoonBoomger has sped things up. What did you think of the episode? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.